Hello and welcome to the first episode of Back Row Cast. I'm Jack, your host, and today we've got a lot of great news to talk about. But first, let's get started with some house cleaning. Um, I don't think I did a great job at episode 0 of properly introducing the podcast. So, my goal is to, yes, eventually get a host and get um, guests on or something in between. My other goal with it is to put it onto Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Um, I think that an audio only version is 100% necessary. I just don't know anything about getting on those platforms. I don't know when I'll get it on those platforms. It's just a little bit of extra work I got to do, and this is purely a passion project. I work full time, so I can't. I don't want to call it anything other than a passion project because I just kind of want to do this. I'm not doing this for any other reason other than to just do it. I think that there's a lot of potential for content in the Elestral space, and I just wanted to take part of it. I thought it'd be fun, and I thought it would be something that would help get me involved in the TCG as a whole even more. So, so this is just my for fun project. So, but yeah, I do plan on keeping to this schedule pretty strict. Um, and like I said, if work is too much that week, might miss a week. Holidays, might miss a weekend or a week. So it doesn't really matter. But that's my plan: is weekly podcast episodes, or if news is just extremely light. Although there is like always news. Literally, just talking in Discord sometimes might cause A Drive to just literally, I don't know, leak like the next like Shattered Stars card or something. So, I mean, anything can happen, and there's just like a leak going down. Um, and even just like little tidbits of information from devs and stuff like, oh, you guys have to wait till this thing, or wait till the spirits um in the next set of Shattered Stars, they're unreal. I'm like, okay, like just devs just saying stuff like that. So, not too much actual spoilers. I mean, most of them come from A Drive, but you know. But anyway, personally, my news is I'm finally getting all my cards in order. I've got basically all the most expensive cards out of the way in terms of play sets for staples and such. Um, I've been spectating a lot of tournaments, and I've been crafting a whole bunch of decks and just basically like dealing out five of myself, playing games with myself, casual games. So anything like that. Can't wait to get like an actual deck and play on a Tuesday. Hopefully, I can play this Tuesday, and if I can, then you'll hear about it on the next episode. Um, and I've been consuming a ton of Daybreak content as like it's kind of starting to roll out, especially like the astronauts and people crafting up deck ideas, which is what I'm also trying to do is come up with some great, crazy, wacky Daybreak deck ideas. So this topic is actually one of my favorite to talk about this week. Pixelborn. So long story short, essentially A Drive found out about Pixelborn of some sort and basically recruited a bunch of people if they were interested in Pixelborn to show their support in the Pixelborn server. There was a vote, and essentially Elestrals came in second, I believe. Either way, the first place was Lorcana because Pixelborn was kind of born out of the Lorcana community. And Elestrals came in second. So Elestrals should be getting support in July was the original time frame for it. I did speak to the dev, and the dev said this week. So the week of this podcast being put out, which would have been pretty cool. I don't know that that's going to happen because it was supposed to launch with Lorcana Ranked. I don't know that Lorcana Ranked launched with Elestrals just yet, unless it's maybe in testing. Don't think so though. So I think it might be like another week or so before we see that. So I do know the dev actually went on holiday as well. So we should see it soon. I still think that we can trust a July release date, at least for a beta of some sort. And this is exciting for me in particular because, well, first of all, one, I do want to say it is a shame for Lorcana because this was a free digital version of Lorcana. It does suck in every single way because they were not profiting. And yeah, it just sucks because there's no digital version for Lorcana. So essentially, you probably ripped the game out of a ton of people's hands. And, you know, what once was a very good way for people to test um, ended up, you know, is now in the gutter. This is kind of expected, but still a shame. Um, but anyway, back to the Elestral side of things. So what happens in TCGs a lot is a lot of people end up going into these teams and they end up being a little bit of secretive and figuring out the meta. Um, and sometimes different teams figure out the meta in different ways. And I think that's extremely interesting. So what happens is they like a bunch of them are secret. Some of them cross pollinate, and some of them end up, sharing their decks and stuff like that. But for the most part, they're generally secretive. Um, then you go to the tournament, and all of these teams, especially for a big TCG, the first time we'll be seeing that and them get together and cross pollinate ideas are at big tournaments, which is it's kind of cool in its own right. Problem is sometimes one meta idea is better than another, especially since like the way these teams are formed. It's like, oh, you're good. Oh, you topped at a tournament. Oh, you topped at a tournament. Why don't we get together and make a team? A lot of times anyway. Not every time. That's not the case for every team, but a lot of times the top players get together and they just kind of make like a super team. So what ends up happening is when you have a super team, they generally go in with the best ideas and win. And I've seen this a lot in Flesh and Blood. Usually, you see the same names in the top 8 of big tournaments, especially ones where a lot of that team is representative in the entire tournament. So, regardless, I think that the best way to deal with a lot of dominating forces is something like Pixelborn. I don't think Pixelborn is going to solve this, but I think it has a lot of benefits. My favorite benefit being it just will streamline the way we play with webcam games. It's going to provide us a platform where we can easily use our tools and a very nice UI, and it's going to be very fun to play webcam games. And eventually, when ranked comes, we'll even get a reward for it. So it doesn't feel like we're just, you know, endlessly grinding out games and, in front of our webcam. So to have even a little rank next to your name, and like I see that they're giving out rewards, like in the Pixelborn server, so it's really cool. I think that would be awesome to have for Elestrals, and especially if Dan ends up A Drive ends up like giving rewards for Pixelborn ranked and working with the devs on Pixelborn. Like, there's so many good things that could possibly happen. So, but back to the competitive side. I think that having something like Pixelborn, if it's used enough and it becomes something where you could just queue into it and then you get a webcam game, you might end up seeing these top decks come out from those like secretive teams. They won't just like play and jam games within themselves. They'll play when it's convenient for them. And they'll say, "Okay, let me just try this deck out in like, in some webcam games and just see how it does." Like, let me see how it does against all these random matchups against people who are on like the ranked ladder or something. Even though if they're the highest rank, the highest ranked on the rank ladder might not be the most competitive. It's still probably some great practice for them when they can't jam games within their own testing group or something like that. So I think it's great for that, and hopefully, you know, some of these things get picked up, and I'd like to see some of the things I say come true, even if it is a little bit. But regardless, I think something like Pixelborn is absolutely amazing for the base players. Just having a great webcam experience that is seamless. Right now, we have to talk to people in Discord. We have to wait for them to respond. We have to tag something. They might be on their phone, and then they have to walk over to their computer. Nope. If you're queuing, you can tag the Discord still and say, "Hey, I'm queuing," or you just queue into someone, which would be fantastic. And I hope it works out like that. And I hope that the competitive, teams and stuff like that will take their competitive decks into the ladder, and it'll start meshing into the ranked masses, and it'll do something. It'll develop the meta faster and hopefully better, and keep it nice and fresh. So, and my last point on this, I think it helps development. When we see the meta develop and we see it get solved cleaner and faster, and I hope that Pixelborn can do that. It'll help in the way that it helps development, so that the devs can see something and hopefully fix it by adding a card to this element, or you know making sure, like, okay, maybe Thunder's a little too much, maybe we'll go easy, we'll take a card out of the next set of Thunder, like maybe this card is going to be too much for that, something like that. um it's just something that could possibly help the devs as well, collecting data on the cards. So, and they'll have a program to do that for them, which is just absolutely amazing. Another interesting thing is there is a Reddit AMA. So let's see if this works. Okay, cool. So let me scroll to the top here. I will try and remember to leave a link in the description of the video. If not, it's pinned in the Elestrals Reddit. So highly suggest going through this, reading it, because I'm not going to be reading everything. I'm going to highlight some things, and I might read like one or two. So first, I asked a question, and basically it was, what does his day look like, and first official tournament, and what he's most excited to see. So I'll cover the first two, or I'll cover all of those rather. So he's just doing like Elestrad stuff, doing testing, um, you know, sitting in a lot of phone calls and stuff like that, and doing managing of all the teams, art for the future set releases. You can read this all. First person tournament 2025 essentially. I don't think one's going to work out for 2024. It's really hard to organize those things, and it sounds like things accidentally fell through for this year. So, and he's excited to see he's excited for us to get the Daybreak cards in because of the new quality. So I'm really excited for that, because I thought that Daybreak, or before Daybreak, I thought that the card quality was really cool and really interesting in some ways, and in some ways even better than like every other TCG, which is kind of crazy. But in other ways, it was kind of like pretty bad. Like, you just put your nail against it and there's like an indent. You play webcam games and then all those fingernail imprints like start catching, especially like depending on what sleeves they're using. It's really interesting. And especially when people are like unpacking or something, and sometimes they won't put like, people unpack so many boxes that they're not sleeving all their hollows and stuff, and then you can just see after them mangling with the cards for so long, there's fingerprint indents in the cards. So that was like an older thing. I don't remember seeing that with Frostfall that much. There's like hollow pattern issues and stuff, so there's a new hollow pattern. Really excited to see all that stuff. I think it's only gotten better, so I trust that they've gotten better. But I can't wait to see it in person. There's another thing. So somewhere in here he mentions TCG Player. Basically, he's in talks with it. Still nothing guaranteed. But he's got to talk to TCG Player, and he apparently has a call scheduled for this upcoming week. So hopefully that gets resolved, and the secondhand market will be like under control, because it's not out of control, but getting a staple is just so hard, because some of the staples only come from starter decks, which causes them to be a ridiculous amount of money. Or you could just buy the starter decks themselves for like twice the price. Or or if you're trying to get them as soon as possible, you have to buy 2 starter decks, and it's like it's just not a great experience. And I know that other TCGs have it way worse. I'm not saying it's not worse, but it's just a weird it's just a weird thing where it's like you're guaranteed them if you just buy this other product, and it's like, well, I'd rather just buy the card, but there's so much money. Yeah, it is what it is. Still, like I said, better than situations in other TCGs, but this is something that is actively being worked on, so I can't really complain. And we'll get more into that actually in a little bit. Let's see. Oh yeah, so I asked just like, how is Elestrals doing, and I'll just read this real quick. And it was very hard start of the year for us because of the delays we faced in first edition and Frostfall, which, very true, caused all the sets to be kind of like first edition and Frostfall like fell really close together, and the first tournament of Frostfall was like happening, and we're releasing set 3 things. It's just feels kind of bad. And now third um, third set Daybreak is going to be releasing next month. Like theoretically, we'll be hearing about shipping in a couple days from now, or in 1 month from now. So we don't really get to sit with Frostfall that long. Um, it is what it is, but yeah, I imagine that would cause some trouble. But he says, but now we're finally catching up on delivering on a more set schedule, which is fantastic. We're seeing a lot of promising signs. I anticipate organized play and some of our other endeavors to really bolster our growth. Ultimately, we're doing very well, really well. I'm super happy with the growth and even more happy with where things are going. We have some constraints, like we don't have infinite money to spend, and sometimes we have to be a bit more strategic, but it's all part of the process, and I'm confident we're going to continue building something special for many years to come. Yeah, I think he hits a really good point there. Obviously, um, just like these really big corporate companies that like buy up another company, and it's like, okay, why aren't they just fixing this? Just throw money at it. Just throw money at it. It's like, yes, but at the same time, A Drive's probably got plenty of money. However, if he just threw all of his money at it, it could be devastating for his entire life and family, and he would just throw everything away. Um, he did a lot by starting Elestrals, so I don't think it's smart for him to just throw more money at it. So I think it's good that he's giving Elestrals some boundaries so that it could grow organically and not just push money at it and hopefully it grows or something. So that's good. He also has some like to answer to another question. He leaves like the judge training, which is really good. If you're looking into the nitty gritty of all the rules, that's something that you guys might want to check out. And there's one other thing. Yeah, this one. So EU distribution. So this is a really big one because the game is technically worldwide, but it's very expensive. If you're outside of the States, it's extremely expensive. And there are some really dedicated EU players because they'll pay for it, and that's fantastic. But it would be even better if they didn't have to pay just as much for their product as they did in shipping. So hopefully that can get under fixed. They're in some talks and they got some new shipping partners already. I believe he said somewhere he's got like DHL and I can't remember the other one. I don't want to say one that doesn't exist in Europe. I don't know, but it's being worked on. I wish I screenshot. So in the Discord, he did mention a little bit more, and I missed a screenshot and I couldn't find it before this. So I was hoping I could get that screenshot, but he did go into it and he said which shipping companies he's working with. So, but yeah, give this a look. Go through this. There's a whole bunch of people who are asking some really interesting questions. Those are the big highlights. It looked like maybe there might have been another one. Let me check real quick. No. Oh, there's the TCG player one. Just some personal, non-interesting questions. Okay. Yeah, so there's that. So what else? Let's see. Okay, so we'll go into what does Daybreak mean for Elestrals. So this is going to break up some of our upcoming news a little bit in an interesting way where I think that Daybreak is going to be pretty big for Elestrals. I don't know if it's going to be like the biggest set in terms of growth for Elestrals, but I think it's going to be a very big set in terms of what it offers or what it's bringing. So it's shipping at a great time because this is when it was planned to be shipped, as far as I understand, which is good because now we're hitting the mark of a set being released on time and hopefully getting to the players' hands in time so that we have August, September, October, November, and then December, the next set will be shipping, where this Frostfall was kind of falling a little bit close to Daybreak and everything. The meta is going to be tossed up. So there's already people crafting up some ideas and showing content videos like with the Elestrals and stuff. I don't think there's any one video that says that Lunar is completely OP, and A Drive actually does explain that into the Reddit as well. He talks about like the meta and whatnot. but I don't think that solar is going to be ridiculous. I think it's going to be very strong. I hope that it brings other, more meta decks up and doesn't just create another tier above Thunder Nexus. So that, like, yeah, I hope it doesn't do that. But there's a lot of promising cards, and we're hoping that the meta is going to be shaken up and there's going to be more viable options other than Thunder Nexus if you want to play competitively. And win essentially. So, and I think for the most part, depending on who you talk to, Thunder Nexus might not even be the best or guarantee to win. But I mean, there's been quite a few tournament results that shows that Thunder Nexus is really, really dominant. So whether you think it's going to win every tournament or not, it's done enough. It's done enough. I'd like to see some other decks, fill up the spots than with Thunder Nexus. Card quality is going up, and that's huge. If Elestrals can get the card quality to something solid, and they don't need to constantly be testing on that, one, that's more man hours dedicated to, things other than card quality, and two, we as consumers of this stuff don't have to worry about our cards getting destroyed. So things like curling foils and promos, and scratches on your card, weird hollow patterns, and I don't know all the terms for everything, but those things will hopefully all get resolved. And they might not be perfect after Daybreak, but hopefully it's at least a good step in the right direction. I mean, that's all we can hope for, and then hopefully you can get to a spot where they can just dedicate like nothing but making sure the cards are printing how they are supposed to. Also, the art is getting a huge improvement. I thought from Kickstarter to first edition, a little bit. I think it was just like the brightness of the cards gone up, which is awesome. Then first edition to Frostfall, the art themselves on the card felt like a little bump and more unique and a little exciting. But in Daybreak, to me, feels like huge corporate business making a new TCG. Like this art is incredible, and I think on some of the product it shows, especially like the binder, the full art of the Celestial is just that is it's gorgeous. Like if that was a Pokemon, or if someone didn't know what Pokemon, knew a little bit about Pokemon, and then you showed them that binder and you just covered up the Elestrals, they'd be like, "Oh, what Pokemon is that?" Like it's literally like it's such incredible art. Like you would never know that it came from such a small card company or small development team. It's absolutely stunning. Um oh, another thing is reprints. So let me see if I can bring up this real quick. Uh-huh. So, okay. So this is something interesting. So the A Drive put in Discord that Alter the Stars is getting a reprint. So in general, there are going to be some reprints through the starter decks, which is meh. Because I'd rather not buy a starter deck at this point. I'd rather just like buy booster, um, the booster boxes, and not worry about buying starter decks unless it's like, ooh, I want that color dye or something, like, or ooh, I want that Elestral hollow promo, like the face on the starter decks or something. Like, I'd rather just not have to worry about buying the starter decks because of like one card in them, but it is what it is. But the good thing is, Alto Stars is being reprinted in a starter deck, and it's being reprinted as a common in the new set, which is amazing. I think the thing to talk about there is that Alter Stars is being reprinted as a common. There's also other reprints happening. Gorgon's Gaze, I think, or something like that. Is also getting another printing, I think. I can't remember, but there's going to be reprints in the set, which is great. He's keeping the staples accessible so that we don't have to hunt for them. Well, like I tried to buy Alto the Stars, and I was like, you know what? Let me just buy it, and I couldn't get it from anyone because he was either selling way too fast, or people were just like, never mind, I'm gonna hold on to it. I'm like, okay, because people are playing it, which is a good thing. I want people to play the game, but also it's like, dang, like people saving it for their extra decks and stuff. And then I get a message, and I'm just like, people selling it me for a high price, and I'm like, I don't want to buy it at that high price. That's just that's not great. That's not a great price. And then they got to buy a play set of them. Um, yeah, doesn't feel great. But this is awesome. This is great news. So this means for Daybreak, we're going to have some really awesome reprints that are going to make more cards that are staples accessible. And it looks like cards that might become staples in Daybreak are pretty accessible already. So that's fantastic. What else? Oh yeah. So a pretty big one is A Drive confirmed September 1st is going to be the organized play. So let me open up this actually. So what I have on the screen now is a timeline for Daybreak. So pre-order's already in. That was on July 12th. And then the graphic shows that on August 9th will begin the LGS in-store pre-release window. So that means any LGS that has an in-store component, not just an online component, will be able to do a pre-release, which is awesome for the partnered ones, which is when you go to like shopelestrals.com and you do like the store locator. I believe those are all the partnered ones. Those ones will have pre-release windows, which is great. August 16th is when all the LGS online and the Elestral store is going to start shipping, which is fantastic. This is all, hopefully within their timeline. It feels like it. It feels like it should be. That feels like a good amount of time between when the next set should be releasing in December. I believe it's December. If it's December, that feels pretty good. So we'll see. Hopefully it's like early December or something. So yeah, there's that. And finally, with the organized play, that starts on September 1st, going back into that, sorry for jumping around, will be the OTS packs. So you go to your LGS, you play a couple competitive games, and I believe it's like, we'll have to wait for more information to come out from like the LGS or A Drive to release, but I believe just by showing up, you get a pack, and then first, second, third, or something like that, you get an extra pack or something for winning, or you get an extra pack for winning a game, something like that. So, at some place, A Drive broke up the math. I should have gotten a screenshot of that and displayed that. Definitely some improvement for next episode. Okay. But yeah, so there was a standard guideline that he was talking about in Discord, and I wish I had posted that, but essentially it'll work for quite a few weeks. I think it's like something like 16 weeks worth of games each season will be, is what he's planning. So that'll be pretty good. Okay, so let's get into Daybreak. So I just want to talk about some interesting Daybreak cards. I don't think I'm like the expert to go to for some analysis on these cards, but I am trying very hard. I think I will have some input into this, and it's mostly just stuff like conversing with people in the Discord. So it might be things you already know, but I'd like to give my opinion on these cards, and hopefully we can see if I'm right. Hopefully, I might have the right intuition. So there's two types of cards I want to talk about. It's the ones I think are definitely going to make some kind of impact and see value. And I'm looking forward to most of these. The other ones are possible sleeper cards. Like, I'm not quite sure if they'll get as much value as we think they will, but hopefully they see some value. If not, in the future, they might see some more value. So like some hidden potential type of thing. So let me pull this up. The first one being on, oh, that's right, I can't zoom in on this one. Oh well. The first one being Dratora. So Jatora, you can Nexus one solar, and when you do, you return up to two solar from your underworld to your spirit deck. I mean, we've seen cards like this before. This is just like almost like a bread and butter. I think this is one that's going to find itself almost in every solar deck, just because you can recoup your solar. So I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. I think Lustragon is going to be pretty good. Being able to Nexus up to 3 is a lot, and you could pretty much like just pull out a Celestia with that, and we know Celestia is also going to be another one. So that's going to be making some. It's going to cause some shaking in the meta, I should say. So I think that one's going to be pretty interesting, especially with all the foretell mechanic. Like it's just insane. Let's see. Nebuleo, Leobright, Celestio. Celestia, I'll just talk about them since I mentioned them. I think they're going to be. I wouldn't put them necessarily in a sleeper, but I would say that they're pretty. They're going to make some kind of impact. There's going to be a deck that's going to be pretty good with them. We saw that in the Elestronaut video. I think they're going to make a pretty big impact, especially with that foretell mechanic on Celestia being able to destroy cards on the field up to the number of cards added to your hand this way. So actually, let me just read the full card. You can foretell 4 and add each lunar Elestral foretold this way to your hand. Then you may destroy cards on the field up to the number of cards added to your hand this way. That's crazy. If that happens, you can potentially just be destroying like at least a card or two every time you do that, which is insane. So you start your turn, you destroy a card or two. Insane. Runes, Elestrals, you just wipe their board. That could be devastating in 2 turns. Especially if you get to shuffle your deck in between. Nuts. Another one that I think is going to make a little bit of impact is maybe this Glimbat. So when an opponent activates a card effect that discards a card from your hand, you can discard this Glimbat in order to negate that effect and destroy that card. You can disenchant Lunar from this Glimbat in order to draw 2 cards. I think this is going to be like a sideboard thing against Sparkit. Just an unfun card. And this is a direct answer to it, so we'll see. It kind of sucks that we have to have, Glimbat in if we want to directly counter it. I mean, we also have like Earthquake and stuff. It seems like a weird card because it's like a direct answer to like to basically spark it. So Chronodile. I'm going like all over the place. I'm sorry. Chronodile, I think is gonna be pretty interesting. Basically, if you get 6 spirits onto it, it's pretty much gonna be indestructible. It's an 8/14, so it's extremely defensive, and for 2 water spirits and a lunar spirit, it says you can disenchant 1 water spirit from this Chronodile in order to target and destroy a card, while you have at least 6 enchanting water or solar spirits. This Chronodile can not be targeted by opponent's card effects. Insane. Nothing is destroying this thing in battle. Nothing is destroying, especially if you have you're just like stacking water on it, and you have the I can't remember the water stadium. If you have the Atlantis or whatever, you just it's not going anywhere. Even if you have a solar one, the solar stadium, it's not going anywhere. And then you put like fleece on this thing, forget about it. Like actually just forget about it. All right, let's move on to the next one. What else do I have? Okay. So P-Gleam, I think that's more of like a bread and butter kind of thing. I put this in like the sleeper just in case, but like I think this is kind of just like you need a quick 1 drop down, and it's pretty good. So P-Gleam reads, when this P-Gleam receives 1 or more solar, you can target an Elestral and set its base attack to 0 until the end phase. So it's pretty good. It's good for early in the game when hopefully they don't have a ton of runes, or maybe like after like a turn or 2, maybe you might be able to take out something with this little weak P-Gleam. So I think it's pretty good. I wouldn't mind rocking it. especially like if you're foretelling, and you need like another Elestral. I don't know that you'd fill it with like Helium if you needed the Lunar Elestral, but it seems pretty good. That's why I put it in the sleeper thing, I think. So another one is Thalaferos. It says you can expend one Lunar in order to reveal each of your opponent's face down runes, then destroy up to one rune revealed this way. This effect cannot be chained by counter runes. Um, you basically just get to peek at the back row cast. You get the peek at the back row and destroy basically if you're looking to attack, you destroy like the shield. If they got a Gorgons, you can get the Gorgons. If you're worried about a tsunami, you flip you destroy the tsunami. Yeah, there's not much else to say though. And then it says this effect cannot be changed by counter rune. So you know, um, it seems like a pretty solid card. I think the hardest part about it is getting, it's a 2 drop instead of a 1. So I think that's the hardest thing going for it. But I put it in sleeper because I feel like we might see that card some. Wouldn't be surprised if we don't, but I feel like we might be able to see, especially in the early game, we might see some interesting tech with that. Um, I think a lot of people are excited about Luminor Ruminous. I don't know if it's just because they're the ruse or not, but I don't know. It's some interesting like mill, I guess. Um, I don't know. It doesn't seem too exciting for me personally. I mean, Luminor is strong. 5/2 is pretty strong as a 1 drop. So, and then of course we've got the cows, Soul Bell and Soul Stocks. I think with the foretell mechanic, so I'll read both those cards, but essentially my opinion on those is they're going to be pretty strong, and I think there's a viable cow deck in the future when this set comes out. Especially with this foretell mechanic and Apollo and everything and Fleece, it just seems crazy. So Soul Bell reads for a 1/4, 1 solar drop. While you foretell, you may special ascend this Soul Bell to a foretold Soul Stocks. Your Apollo's effects that foretell cards reveal an additional 2 cards, and then Soul Stocks is 4 attack, 7 defense, 2 solar, 2 solar to enchant. When you special cast this Soul Stocks, you can enchant up to 2 solar from your underworld to your field. You can disenchant solar from your Apollo in order to target and destroy a card. I think that's insane, especially since what's that one card? Something first light. First light. Yeah. Send search your deck for a Lunar Elestral and put it on top of your deck. You literally could just stack for stack for Soul Stocks. If you have that first light and then you have a Soul Bell, you can literally stack it with a Soul Stocks. It's insane. Did I read that right? I just want to make sure. Yeah, just for a Lunar Elestral. Yeah, that's insane. Also, you can search Celestia with that. Insane, insane. Um, I don't think so. Calfmail, Faramel, and Farrageist. I so I think Calfmail might see some use. Um, which is when you ascend this Calfmail or it is destroyed, you can return 3 spirits in any combination of lunar, solar, and lunar from your underworld to your spirit deck. I think that's genuinely pretty good. Um, Problem is, I don't because I don't think like lunar in general is like totally set up yet. I'm not really going to be talking about any card that has lunar. I think in the next set these cards will become more useful, but I don't think they're necessarily bad cards. I just think they need more support. So Faramel and Farrageist for that example. I'm not going to be talking about them too much, just because I don't think they're going to see too much play without more lunar support. So just my opinion. What is the next card I wanted to talk about? Um, Plucky is a Divine Rune Searcher, so that's pretty good. I think Corvishine is actually going to be a pretty good one. When this Corvishine receives 1 or more lunar, you can foretell cards equal to the number of spirits enchanting it plus 1. Then you may draw a card and put a card from your hand on top of your deck. I think it's really good just for a 1 drop, just being able to foretell. Um, just a small amount of cards in the beginning, and then maybe you can get like an extra spirit or something onto it, Nexus onto it, do some Nexus shenanigans, and then you might be able to, stack the top of your deck a little bit. Um, and then if you can get a shuffle in after, like you use it after the first couple rounds, like that's perfect. Hopefully you got the cards you saw on the top of your deck, and then maybe some draw mechanics and stuff to make sure you do that. And then you get to shuffle your deck, and then hopefully you have another card that can foretell to stack the top of your deck even deeper. So yeah, pretty nuts. So Exaltus, I think, is a pretty good card. Just so it reads, it's a 3/2 1 lunar enchant. You can Nexus up to 2 lunar. When you do, you can search your deck for whatever that symbol is, an Elestral, and add it to your hand. So it's pretty nuts in the way that you could just search for these Elestrals, and basically like every lunar like Elestral has that almost. Like the Ruse don't is the first one that I'm seeing. Celestleo has it. Like you just pull out your Celestleo line, like Nebuleo and Leobright, like insane. Like you have two ways to search for those cards. It's actually insane, and maybe more that I'm not thinking of. Cypromal, I think, is a really really good card. I put it under sleeper. I don't know that I should have put it under sleeper. I feel like it's just going to be pretty good. It's a 1 lunar. I'm sorry, it's a 4/1 1 lunar enchant. When you cast this Cypromal, you can search your deck for a golden fleece and cast it, empowering the Cypromal. Spirits from your spirit deck and/or underworld can be used to cast this golden fleece. That's insane. So if you if you get some spirits into the underworld, you can just cast this 1 drop and then get golden fleece onto it. Insane. I feel like for free essentially because you're just using the spirits from the underworld. To me, that just seems just like a little bit crazy. Um, Maybe I'm wrong. The helioliths are always pretty good, or the lists are pretty good. I'm sorry. And the solar one, it's 5/5, 2 solar enchant. This heliolith can be normal cast with 2 solar and an artifact. If an artifact is enchanted, when you cast this heliolith, you can return an Elestral on the field to its owner's hand. So if there is an artifact enchanted on the board, you can cast a heliolith and return an Elestral on the field to its owner's hand. So it's as long as there's an enchantment, an artifact enchanted, you get to shield, like a shield of, um, whatever it's called. I don't even remember. I have it right here actually. Um, you get the shield of Achilles. There we go. I always call it shield, and then I forget the real name. You get the shield of Achilles, and um, and get this 2 drop out, which is kind of nuts. Hopefully, it's your artifact enchanted too. Hopefully, the Cypromal's out with the fleece, and then oh my gosh, yeah. So Helios, I feel like is gonna be pretty good. I feel like all the lists are pretty good. So this is kind of like on par with um the others. So cool. It's solar support list. Pretty awesome. Um, I feel like Spectrus. I'm not like I said the lunar ones. I'm not going to go into Pandolins and Spectrus. Pretty good. Just think they need lunar support. I think the Pandolins might be insane because you can return the counter runes from your underworld. I think that's kind of insane. Mudlet, Chrysbor, don't think they're too insane. The next card I wanted to talk about was Fungide. Fungide and Brontowisp. So Brontowisp is a lunar card, so I won't go too much in that one. But the whole Fungide thing. So your Fungide 1/1. Your Elestrals cannot be attacked except for this Fungide. When a player casts Follow the Wisp, you can special cast a Brontowisp from your hand or deck. So I lied, I guess. I guess I am going to talk about a lunar one, but I won't go too much into Brontowisp too much. I think if you're running this Fungide, it's going to be kind of crazy. Especially so in the Discord we were talking about what happens if you have 2 fungi and you just straight up can't attack. That's kind of crazy. So then you have to get rid of it with runes, which can kind of like I guess artifacts then come into play. So I don't know. It seems kind of weird. This card. I feel like it's kind of really strong. I feel like it's gonna be a little unfun if someone just figures out a way to like just get two fun guides out, or with the Brontoist, just keep bringing out fun guides. Yeah, I don't know. It feels kind of insane, like how you could just not attack if there's two of them on the field, and then you can potentially grab them from the. So let's read Brontoist. It's a 6/5. You can disenchant fire from your fun guide. Um, yeah. So Brontoist reads 6/5. Um, Fire Lunar. You can disenchant one fire spirit from your fun guide in order to target and destroy a rune. When an Elestral on your field is destroyed in battle, you can expend one fire in order to special cast a fun guide from your underworld. Yeah, that just seems kind of crazy. I mean, so when a fun guide is destroyed in battle, you can expend one fire in order to special cast a fun guide from your underworld. So, actually, that's a good question. I don't know that when that fun guide gets destroyed, I don't know that you can special cast the same one. If not, it's not as insane as I was thinking. So I think when I initially read over it, that's what I just assumed. So I don't know. And because it's lunar, I'll go ahead and sweep that one under the rug. As in, I'm not going to be talking about that one too much because I don't think lunar has enough support. Smile. Um, yeah. So all right, we got some mill with like humbust, humburst. That'll be pretty cool. Ash Rabbit. Okay, so yeah, so Ash Rabbit I think is really good. So Ash Rabbit reads 2/5 1 Fire Spirit. When this Ash Rabbit receives one or more Fire Spirits, you can target 3 cards in your underworld. Then an opponent chooses one of them. Return that card to your hand or spirit deck. So as long as you have 3 cards in your underworld, you're getting him back. It's not as good as Ash Rabbit, like the electric rabbit. I don't know if that's coming through on the mic right. Ash Rabbit, Ash Rabbit. I think that Ash Rabbit's still better, but Ash Rabbit is really good. So it's kind of like having like a mini Ash Rabbit. Kind of insane. Um, Eddie's really cute. I think Eddie and Curibus aren't right to talk about yet. I don't think I see a huge potential in them just yet. Um, I think that you could make a deck around Curibus. Um, but okay, so let's read Curibus. You can disenchant 2 water spirits from your field in order to destroy a card. If it is destroyed this way, return 1 spirit from your underworld to your spirit deck, up to the number of spirits that were enchanting that card. Um, it's pretty good. I just feel like there's so many ways to remove a card that like, and disenchanting 2 spirits from it. So it's like you might get one use out of it, and then you'll be able to recover some. I don't know. I'm so torn on it. I'm sure other people will figure out how to get it. And then my only issue is like the natural way to ascend to it is from Eddie. Which I'm sure there'll be easier ways to get to Curibus other than Eddie. But when you cast this Eddie reads when you cast this Eddie, you can change the position of an Elestral. Pretty good. When a player casts Rock in a Hard Place, you can special send this Eddie to Curibus from your hand or deck. Um, yeah. I mean, having Eddie and Rock in a Hard Place, like, I don't know. I just don't think Eddie's insane enough to be able to play like to get that guaranteed play out every single time. Um, but I mean, I don't know. It's not awful. I don't know. I don't see it as like a promising win in the deck. It doesn't quite strike me as Thunder Nexus. um, Strong anyway. So there's that. Coastalith is the next one I want to talk about. 2/8 water, 2 water enchant Elestral. This Coastalith can be normal cast with 2 water spirits if an opponent has at least 2 Elestrals in defense position. That's pretty good. Especially if like you're using Galaxy or something like that, or Tsunami. You catch them with Tsunami. Pretty good. When you cast this Coastalith, you can special cast a 1 spirit water Elestral from your hand. So this will be interesting. Maybe you could pull out that eddy, or maybe I don't know. You could do anything with this. There's so many one drops in water that you could just pull out that like foamy, like anything. There's so many good one drops that you can just drop out with that. Especially with like tsunami and everything, being able to alter. I think it's alter that you can just turn the position of the Elestral. It seems pretty good. The lists are all pretty good. I think this one is also very good with the type of decks that Water are playing anyway. So also very good. What else did I want to talk about? Um, yeah, so I guess Arcolith is the next one I want to talk about. So there's a whole bunch of good electric cards coming out, but I feel like Arcolith just feeds more into the Thunder Nexus. Kind of crazy. So it reads, this Arcolith can be normal cast with 2 Electric Spirit, Thunder Spirit. If an opponent has at least 2 Elestrals in attack position, when you cast this Arcolith, you can enchant up to 3 Thunder Spirits from your underworld to your field. God, I mean, the potential you could do with that is just insane. It's insane. I thought it's just Thunder Nexus. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. So I was going to review the win cards later, but I ended up just bringing that into this video, and we'll just generally go over the remaining of these cards because there's not too many left actually. I do have I'm a glutton for punishment. I like these wind cards, and I would like to try and make wind viable. Won't ever be my main deck until it is viable, but it's something that I just want to constantly work on and just have my finger on the pulse so that when wind decks are super viable, I'm right there. And when they're not viable, I want to have my finger on the pulse so that I'm like, okay, I feel like this is what wind needs. Because right now I'm not at that, and I would say that I don't know if these new cards from Daybreak is what wind needs exactly. I will say this Verituka is one card that I was looking forward to. I think so. It reads, it's a 3/1, 1 wind enchant. When this attacking Verituka enters battle with an attack position Elestral that has equal or fewer enchanting spirits, you can suppress that Elestral and destroy it. If you do, this Verituka deals no damage this battle. So that in itself is pretty good, and I think paired with some of the other suppressing effects cards like Dense Fog and I'm forgetting the name of it, the Lunar Viscerus. Um, I think we start to see some synergies with some other elements and stuff like that. Also, suppressing is very, very good, and I think that this 1 cost card would actually be pretty good in wind. So I think this is a good start. But I like I said, I don't know. Once I get to testing Daybreak, I'll be able to tell you more. um, let's see. So yeah, this is a sleeper. I put this in a sleeper just in case. Go to this. I'm also switching to the Elestrals website just because the cards are bigger. I think I should have done that to the beginning, but a little too late now. I will talk about Javalucan. I also put him as a sleeper, so 2 cost 6/4. When this Javalucan destroys an opponent's attack position Elestral in battle, that opponent must expend 3 spirits. I don't know that mill is going to be Wind's specialty. Not even mill, but like the burn, I guess. But 3 spirits is a lot. It is a lot, and if you can get this out quickly, I think it's gonna be kind of devastating in the beginning. 6 attack is no joke, but getting 2 spirits out quickly can be kind of tough. How that being said, I don't think it's impossible. I just don't know how super viable this is just yet. So I put it in a sleeper. Broomalinx. So this is great. I think Frost generally has a pretty decent package. in Daybreak. I think it got some pretty good cards. So Broomlink's here. Um, I think it's going to be a good Frost card, one that I'm looking forward to. Broomlinks reads 3 attack, 5 defense, 1 Frost enchant. You can Nexus up to 2 Frost. When you do, you can target a non-stadium rune. If it is face up, turn it face down. That rune cannot be cast as long as this Broomalinx is enchanted. Its enchanting spirits are sent to the underworld. That is pretty good because now it's just sucking up a spot um, on their rune row, their back row, and that's pretty important. So they either have to replace it or they're stuck with it there. So, which I mean, they're not stuck with it, but they have to replace it. So they're going to get rid of them themselves, or they have to deal with this Broomalinx, which is I don't know. That's pretty awesome. At 5 defense is pretty good for a one spirit enchant. We see that with Astrabbit as well with the 5 defense. So I think this is a pretty great card. Morfrost Batform. I don't think this is anything crazy. So Morfrost Batform reads 1 attack, 1 defense. When this Morfrost is discarded, you can special cast a Morfrost that is not Batform from your underworld. So you can probably you can get like a bomb and stuff like that, but I don't know that you run necessarily Batform. Maybe like a 1 of or something. Maybe we'll see some decks run 2 of or something. I'm excited to see where this goes. I don't have my finger on the pulse of more Frost decks totally. It was very hype and then it kind of like died down. So I think it hasn't been performing too well, or maybe the pilots of the decks haven't been performing too well. So I'm excited to see more Frost get a little bit of help if it needs it. So we'll see where it goes. Polzer is pretty cool. Polzer reads 2 attack, 2 defense, 1 Frost Spirit enchant. This Polzer gets +1 attack for each Frost Elestral in your underworld. This effect cannot increase this Polzer's attack by more than +5 total. I think this is great. You run this with more Frost, and you just, you're getting so much. I mean, Frost generally plays underworld, so, I mean, you throw this in your deck, and you easily got a 7, probably easily, got a 7 attack, 1 Spirit enchant, which is pretty insane in itself. Of course, you've got Apollo. Apollo is crazy good with the Foretell. Foretell itself is not crazy, but the effects that are attached to it can be crazy. What I like about Apollo is and Foretell is I feel like it's not just like a brain dead thing. It makes you have to like critically think, and I really like that. So Apollo is a 1 spirit and divine rune, and when you cast this Apollo, you can enchant up to 3 solar to it. You can disenchant 1 solar from this Apollo in order to foretell 3 and add up to 1 solar Elestral foretold this way to your hand. So almost like Astrabbit in that way. So you can reorder what you put back on top. You can stack the top of your deck. You can grab that solar Elestral. You know it's there. You're going to be drawing the next turn. So 2 of the 3 hopefully are gone if there's a solar Elestral in there, which means you know exactly what 1 card is on top for the following turn or for your draw engine, whatever. And the other 2 are new. So the next turn you can just foretell again when you disenchant. So pretty crazy. Bow of Apollo. I think this with like Chronodile or any big monster will be pretty strong. So so it reads artifact 1 spirit enchant. This empowered Elestral can attack opponent's spirit's deck directly. When Apollo is enchanted and the empowered Elestral deals damage to an opponent, you can return 1 solar from your underworld to your spirit deck. So essentially, you can skip any Elestral in their front row, attack their spirit deck, and then gain 1 back from the underworld. So it's really not bad, especially if you're doing this with a really big monster. So if you do end up somehow getting Chronodile out, you can attack their spirit deck for at least 3, at least. Maybe you have more, at least 3, and then you gain 1 back. If you can do that, I mean, even 1 attack is you get the cost of your Bow of Apollo back. You do it again next turn. Now you've got 2/3 of your Chronodile back at that point. Like this, I don't know if it's going to be meta defining, but it's definitely a good pickup for solar. I think this is a very good pickup for something who's running heavy solar. I don't know if it'll be necessary. I'm excited to see where this goes though. Golden Fleece is a staple. This is a staple. I mean, an artifact to Solar Spirit enchant. The empowered Elestral gets +2 defense. If the empowered Elestral would be destroyed in battle or by an opponent's card effect, you may destroy this Golden Fleece instead. It's a get out of jail free card. It's a get out of jail free card. Art is amazing on it, and this Golden Fleece is pretty good. I think you're probably running this if you're playing Solar, especially Chronodile or anything like that in Celestia. Like you get a free get a jail card. First Light, we talked about this a little bit. An invoke, 1 spirit, 1 solar spirit enchant. Search your deck for a solar Elestral and put it on top of your deck. You get to stack your deck. Stack your deck. Apollo, the cows, any of those things work. You're picking it up with Apollo. You're searching for your cow so that when you foretell, you can special ascend. You got it. Temple of the Sun, really beautiful art. Absolutely beautiful. I think that if there was no zones on the playmat, this might have been the zone that I got. Maybe. At least one of them. There's a ton that I really like that they had no zones. I just don't prefer the zones. I like to see just the actual art. But yeah, this is the stadium's awesome. It does what all the other ones are, which is Elestrals get +1 attack, +1 defense for each solar enchanting them. Another staple, if you have Fleece, you have Guardian of the Fleece. This is a counter rune, 2 solar enchant. This Guardian of the Fleece can only be cast with an opponent activate when an opponent activates a card effect that targets an artifact or empowered Elestral on your field. Negate that effect, then destroy a card on the opponent's field. I think this is really good. This just limits, what they can use to destroy you, and they've got to have an answer for this. Like 2 extra lives, essentially, is the best way to put it. I was trying to put it a different way, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. But it's another extra live on top of the Fleece. So next card though, Dense Fog. This is gonna be awesome. I think this Dense Lunar and going with this suppress mechanic, I think is really interesting. Dense Fog is a counter rune, and the art is really cool. I can't quite tell what Elestral is in this Dense Fog. It looks really cool though. But roll back up. Suppress each Elestral that is not Lunar enchanted until end phase. And I'm sorry, this is 1 Lunar cost counter rune. Suppress each Elestral that is not Lunar enchanted until the end phase. Similar to like Tsunami, you might just be randomly misenchanting Lunars now because you might just get Dense Fog because suppressing is extremely strong. More so, I think, than turning your Elestral's position to defense. We'll see. I that might be a hot take. That could be a hot take, but I think that might be true. So, we'll see. Dense Fog, staple. Circle the Sky reprint, you love to see it. Yeah, Argo's one I'm going to talk about. So it's a 2 generic cost counter. This Argo can only be cast after an Elestral declares an attack. Cast an artifact rune from your hand or deck. This is like, I feel like this is Magic the Gathering in a nutshell right here. In my old experience with Magic the Gathering, like one of my the first times I was playing it, you have an attack and then you quickly enchant it so that their attack ends up backfiring on them. So let me explain it again. Your opponent attacks you you have Argo so that you can quickly enhance or enchant something to your Elestral so that the Elestral they're attacking ends up, killing them, and the whole plan backfires on them. So I think that this will be pretty good. And there's already like some Curibus, shenanigans people are brewing up with this. I'm excited to see what people do with this. I don't know if it's going to be like a staple. I'll be honest. I don't know if it's going to be a staple in every deck. We'll see how the meta develops because I think in an attack-heavy meta, like a very aggro type of meta, we could see this. But in the current like counter rune removal type of meta, I don't know that we necessarily see this card come out too often. But we'll see. Mudslide, not really going to talk about that. Rock on a Hard Place. Rock on a Hard Place, I think, is pretty good. It does run Lunar, which is a little interesting. I think you're running this in a very specific deck, but I think once Lunar gets more support, we'll see it more. So this is an Invoke rune for 1 water, 1 Lunar. This Rock in a Hard Place's cast cannot be chained by counter runes. Target a rune and an Elestral on an opponent's field. That opponent destroys one of them. Lots of interesting rules. This I'm not going to go into it, but this seems like a pretty good one. You're picking between a rune and an Elestral, and you got to destroy one. So it makes your opponent think about which one they have to destroy, and as the person casting this card, you have to try and understand how they're thinking so that maybe what their next plan is. I think that's what makes this card really interesting. It involves a lot of thinking, and I really like that critical thinking in competitive games like this. Cryoblast. I think this is an okay card. So I did want to talk about this. Is 1 Frost Lunar Invoke. Target an Elestral that is not Frost Enchanted until the end phase. Give it -2, and when that Elestral has 0 defense, you must destroy it. So that's pretty interesting. I think that this could be really good in the beginning of games. If you have this out, I think that this could be kind of like devastating for some cards that are like weaker, like the P Gleams and all those things. I don't know, like I can't think of like a specific deck where this would destroy right now. But I do think that maybe this is something that we see become very important to a Frost deck, and maybe even sideboarded now when we do see different archetypes come up in the meta. I think Thunder Nexus is just so dominant right now. It's just hard to even vision past it right now. At least for me personally. So, but I do think that was an important card. And I believe that was the last one. Oh, Don't Poke the Bear. So this is a counter rune, 1 fire cost, 1 fire rune cost. This Don't Poke the Bear can only be cast during the battle phase. Target, and I believe it's the Ursa symbol, Elestral, and give it +4 attack and +4 defense until the end phase. This could be pretty interesting. So this almost works like an Argo. So you're essentially trying to make the attack backfire on them. I mean, I don't know that this is what's going to solve the bears and make the meta, but this helps. This helps. I mean, you're probably running this if you have the bears, so yeah, okay. I think we're in the, let's see. Let's go back here. I believe that's it. I believe that's all the cards I really wanted to talk about. So we'll be doing this again, but I think after we see some more testing done and I get some testing done, I think that's when we'll talk about the entire set again. So this is like a preview into the set, and I think, this is my personal opinions. I don't think that necessarily all the cards that I talked about is what's going to be the end all be all for this entire set to come. We'll definitely do like, once we get a couple more weeks into the actual set, I want to go back and review these cards again and talk about them after seeing them. So I think that'll be better, and I think it'll be good for me because I'll be able to like basically judge what I've seen. So, hey everyone, a little bit of breaking news here. So it looked like there was an announcement yesterday that there was going to be an announcement today, which is the 15th of July. And there's a small one. It's pretty big actually, I guess, technically. So originally tournaments were being done in BO1 except for Top Cut, and now it's going to be BO3. A lot of people were saying that BO1 was not great and it was like making a lot of weird decks be able to make it through to Top Cut at least. And then when BO3 happens, you can actually fight against these weird one-off kind of decks and these cheese strategies and such. So I'm gonna read this and then we'll finish up this video. I was about to post this video and then I was like, you know what? Let me just add this in just in case. And when I finished up the video yesterday, I looked on Discord after and I was like, oh man, there's gonna be an announcement tomorrow. So I ultimately decided to wait and just add this at the end. Don't know if I'm gonna be doing this in the future or not because this was a pretty small update. I might just push it to the next week's podcast or something, maybe make a short on it or something. Anyway, starting with our webcam tournament on July 21st, we'll be moving to best of 3 matches instead of best of 1 for our major events. We're making this change for a few reasons. Players have been requesting BO3 for quite some time. They're always taking feedback. Our intention is always to be BO3 competitive game, and we hear the community in regards to possible balance changes, and we feel it's crucial to have data from BO3 events as that is our intended format moving forward. Kind of just summarized it there because I think the first sentence basically summarized it well there for each of those points. But I think this is a pretty decent move, and I think that it's going to be a little bit of growing pains, I think, for their side mostly, just because BO3 does take a lot longer. So inherently, there's going to be longer tournaments, but I think that's okay. Generally, I think that's okay. If we get used to these slightly longer tournaments, hopefully people get better at playing the game, play the game faster, and we'll all just have fun doing it, and we won't worry about really how long it's taking. Especially when we move to in-person events where it's going to be multiple days and at least one full day of just straight up playing games. I think it's going to be great. I personally think it's going to be great. I think this is awesome. Then he continues, says, remember that this means you can now choose to access your 12 card side deck in between games during Swiss rounds, and that tournament will run for a few hours longer than before. Like we said, side deck isn't required, but building one can help give you an edge against otherwise poor matchups. I think that basically sums up the benefit of side deck there. A lot of times in BO1, you don't have time to really change up your side deck. It's like, all right, let me try this thing out. And it's like, oh, they're pulling some weird shenanigans on me. Okay, better not do that. But you don't have any time to fix it because you don't have another 2 games at least to come back. You're just out. Or not out, but you're at least done with that round of Swiss. There'll be more details in tournament announcements, and they go into a little bit more details, but this is the gist of it. They go on to show us that it's gonna be a top 8 cut for basically any size of webcam games, and I think they're willing to change and move on these things. And I hope that they make decisions a little bit quicker. I think for a format like this, most decisions can be made a little bit quicker. And I don't expect them to jump on the gun and make the perfect decision every single time, but something like moving top 8 to top 16 in the future, I think that might be a decent play. Who knows though? I could be totally wrong, but that's just one example. That's something that they could do. Basically, hey guys, top 8 wasn't it this tournament. Next tournament, we're going to do top 16. We'll see how that plays out. Something like that. But anyhow, well, let's continue to the end of the video from Past Jack. That'll be it for this week. I really appreciate you joining me on episode 1. If you guys could like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. And if you guys see me around the Discord, let me know what you guys think of the podcast. I'm usually there almost basically every single day. So I'd really like to know what you guys think. Also, in the comments below, um, just let me know what you guys think. I do plan on improving the podcast as I watch back the episode, like I did with episode 0. I already noticed a couple things, and hopefully, I improved on them already. Um, Probably do the exact same with episode 1. So I'm hoping each episode will just become a little bit better, a little bit smoother, a little less cringe, all those things. So thanks for joining me, guys, and see you guys in the next one.